Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the cyber insecurity stream. It is July 20th. July 20th. Holy cow, I literally had a pause there as I thought about what day it was and how long it's been since we've done one of these streams. Holy cow. Holy cow, it's amazing. I apologize for everybody who had to listen to me mouth breathe on the pre-roll there. I forgot to switch out some of the mic inputs a little bit on that one. My name is Neil Bridges, and thank you for joining me today. Welcome to all of our new joiners as well as our regular visitors. Real conversations with real people. That is direct from one of our guests, and you can catch all that right here. You know what? I know what you guys are here for. I know what you guys literally are here for. You guys want to see this guy right here. This is the guy you want to see right here. I know that. Jeff, welcome back, buddy. Welcome back.
It has been a minute.
You're my bestie. I love you. I'm sitting in your heart. That's it. That's the end of it. That's the end of it.
Did you like it?
I did like it. That's pretty good. I was like, aw, you gonna be a black hat? You gonna be a black hat, right?
Of course.
Will you snuggle with me, a black hat?
they actually have me presenting at our booth. So
you're gonna present? Oh God, I have to be there for that.
Scary thought. I'm actually presenting your circle diagram.
Are you really? Really? What are you gonna say? Do you remember how to present that thing? You use that thing all the time, don't you?
I do.
God, that thing's gonna live forever in infamy.
The Neil circle.
What we're talking about, right? What we're talking about is Jeff and I were sitting at dinner at Fogo de Chao, which is still hands down one of my most favorite places to eat Brazilian barbecue. I absolutely love it.
Meat coma.
Oh my God, dude! The amount of meat that it was endless.
They say, please leave now. we cannot afford you anymore.
I do have to say that Jeff and I have actually been kicked out of Fogo. It's been pretty bad.
When they stand at the table and just kind of look at you, and the guys don't come around anymore with the skewers of meat. They're like, oh yeah. And you know it's time.
And copious bottles of wine at that too. But anyway, so Jeff and I are sitting around at Fogo, right? And I forgot the question you asked me. I forgot what led to it, but I drew my idea for a reference architecture model. Now this was what, 2017, 2016, 2017, so around in there.
It was
2017.
Yeah, it was actually right after we put in EDR for you, and we were just talking about it. Was walk me through the life cycle of a day in the life of Neil Bridges and your team, right?
Yeah.
I think that was really what kind of spawned it.
Yeah.
And then you kind of did that and drew up the little circle. And then I summarized it, and then you said, no.
I was like, you messed it up, Jeff. You messed it up.
Let me correct you.
Yeah.
And now we just do it in front of lots of people to see.
That's right.
You're still correcting me.
That's right. But it was good. I'm glad that thing has lived on. I'm glad that thing has lived on in infamy. That's awesome. You can catch us here. We are bringing Old Guy Wednesday back. I'm gonna force Jeff to make sure that he doesn't schedule any dinners with any potential clients. You're not allowed to make any sales on Wednesday night. Jeff's gonna come back for Old Guy Wednesday.
I'll let you clear that one with Beth.
Yeah, absolutely. As well as Friday mornings, and then we may be adding a couple other streams to that as well. I'll get to that here in a little bit. We really are here to have real conversations with real people about the state of cybersecurity and elevate this conversation to a much broader audience. And we do this because we don't have real conversations in this industry, as most of you have come to realize. Cybersecurity is an ever-changing landscape, and the goal is to focus on multiple aspects of that industry. And so with that, I remind everybody, if we can have Jeff here, you can be here. You are not out of your league on this channel. I'm telling you, if this guy can show up and participate, you can show up and participate as well. No matter how many years you've been in cybersecurity, no matter your discipline, red team, blue team, risk and governance, it does not matter. We are here to discuss the industry impacts of the current landscape and the art of the possible with dealing with today's cybersecurity issues. So, whether you're on the experienced veteran side or new to the field, barely know how to spell cyber,
They taught me that. It's now in my spell check.
It's now in your spell check. You got that one?
Yeah.
This stream, I promise you, is for you. We are here for everybody to participate and learn from this community. I want to thank all of our senior people who are in chat helping everybody along. I want to thank all of our new people for coming along and trusting us in your endeavor. With that in mind, we regularly try to have professionals from across the industry. I'll get into my guest here in a little bit. We do have a guest tonight, Jeff. I'm super excited for that. So first Old Guy Wednesday back, and I know you wanted some alone time with me, but I got to bring in a third because I can only stand so much of you at one time.
It to be uncomfortable, I know.
Didn't want to be the first time to be uncomfortable. So we brought in a third. We're going to get to him here in a little bit.
That.
Yeah.
He's now in the green room getting a little concerned.
Oh, damn. What did I walk into? Now you got me off track. We do have moderators in chat. I want to personally thank our moderators each and every stream for their dedication. Moderators are here to keep chat free of sexist, racist, misogynistic, elitist, and otherwise toxic behavior. I do trust my moderators explicitly, and their decision is final. If you put in a timeout or a ban, you appeal to a moderator, not to me. This is a fantastic time to remind you to hit that exclamation point Discord in chat. Hop on over to our Discord channel. Best way to talk to the moderators and or participate in the giveaways if we do end up doing any giveaways tonight. It looks like the bot is playing nice, so we may see if we get a bot hanging out or a giveaway going on tonight. They're not here, however, to stifle chat at all. As a matter of fact, moderators are here to make sure that your voices are heard. With that being said, I'll be answering questions. Jeff is here to answer questions. Our special guest is here to answer questions. Your questions are ridiculously important to us. Like, they're so important. Like, Jeff, how important are questions?
So important.
So important. Like,
in all seriousness, Neil and I, we can just jabber back and forth for 2 hours. That's what dinners are with us. Which I think was how Neil roped me into this to begin with. But we would way rather have a little direction.
Yeah. much more direction. Your questions are huge level. Obviously, our guest is here to ask questions. However, we only have one rule on questions. We do ask that you only ask your question once. If you ask it more than once, it may be considered spamming, which may ultimately result in a timeout or a ban. So keep that in mind. Okay. We are broadcasting via YouTube right now, but we might be having some second thoughts. We'll talk about that here in a little bit, too, after last night's performance. At the end of the day, we are here for you, the community. We do strive to bring you the most intriguing opinions, points of view, and conversations in the cyber industry every stream. I want to stress they are opinions and points of view. Between Jeff and I, we probably have 150 years worth of experience. Jeff has 100. I only have the 50. He's a little bit older than me. We got our guest here who is going to have some experience as well. So we got a ton of experience here, but at the end of the day, these are opinions and points of view based on our combined experience. And so we do encourage you to fact check us, make your own judgments, and proceed with caution. We do appreciate all our followers as well as our subscribers. First and foremost, I want to thank all of our veterans for their service and sacrifice. Thank you so very much. And with those logistics out of the way, Jeff, we streamed on Twitch last night.
Really?
And it was amazing. It was amazing. The hype on Twitch.
Did they come back to you and say, hey, we screwed up. We've totally changed our platform to entice you back?
They have definitely made some changes. Here's what we've always loved about Twitch, right? The community around Twitch is awesome. We remember when we were on Twitch, we would raid streamers all the time. Right, and we made so many streamers days by rating them. Right,
it was awesome.
It was awesome.
Time and time again, there were guys that had like 3, maybe 4, and all of a sudden they'd have 250, and they're like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah. And so, talk about karma. We hadn't streamed on Twitch since August of last year. One of the streamers that we rated at the beginning, that we kind of grew up in the Twitch space together, Al Hazred, who was doing Red Team content, saw us online for the first time since August of last year and rated us right off the bat, right when his stream was done.
Nice.
Like a year later, rated us. Like that level of just community is awesome. And then on top of that, the chat excitement, the chat level of excitement in Twitch really brought back those nostalgia feels. And so, has the platform changed? They've made some improvements. We gave YouTube a year, right? We gave YouTube a year to try to make some pretty significant streamer changes, and they really haven't done much. And that's been disappointing, right? YouTube's a beast. It's a monstrosity. And so last night we streamed a new game, and I used new game very, very loosely. For those who tuned in last night, we streamed World of Haiku, right? And World of Haiku is a gamified cybersecurity education platform. And so I met with the CEO today. I'd actually got introduced into it. There's a whole story behind this. But we streamed it last night, and it was awesome. And it worked out very, very well. I was really, really happy with the game. We're going to stream it again tomorrow during Tea with a Hacker. But it was pretty. It was a pretty good time. There might be, as a matter of fact, I am going to say this. We're going to have the CEO of Haiku Inc. from the game last night. He's going to be on Old Guy Wednesday with you and I next Wednesday. We'll be doing that one on Twitch. On Twitch. Yeah. So you'll see what we're talking about next week. You'll miss it too. You'll be like, oh yeah, we missed this. Jeff, Bob's got a question for you. He wants to know how you are.
I've been good. It's actually been a really nice re-entry out of COVID. Like me and my whole family, we were pretty conservative on just getting out and doing a lot of things. So I got the my booster shot. I was like, okay, Beth, that's it. I'm back out. I'm good. So I took my son to a Bulls game, and literally 5 days later, I had COVID.
Oh no!
But honestly, it was not a big deal. It ended up being, for me at least, a very minor thing. Second booster in now. I truly am an old guy. I got the booster right away. I am now in that group, no, we're doing well. We're
good.
We are, as a family, just kind of like re-entering and doing a lot of fun things. So
that's awesome.
It's nice.
The kids are good.
We've kind of had pent up activities that we're now just shooting around the country doing, which is
that's awesome. That's awesome. I do miss you guys. I do miss hanging out with you guys. I just saw this one come in, and I do have to bring this one. I want to thank Arcane Asylum for the super chat. He says, "Welcome," or says, "World of Haiku." Gotta say it right. So the game is World of Haiku, but there was so much hype in chat last night that somebody literally coined it Hypeku, and so they posted it on Twitter today. And I think the CEO has saw that and was like, "It's like, okay, yeah, this is pretty good. I can get behind this." So so yes,
the collective marketing department of
cybersecurity. Okay. Again, remind everybody, drop questions at any point in time. With that being said, I'm going to not leave our guest hanging out over in the green room anymore. Without further ado, Jeff, and to everybody in chat, put your hype hands in the air, drop some bits, whatever the case is, for Jeremy Ventura. Jeremy, thank you so very much for joining us on the Cyber and Security stream. Longtime listener, first-time guest. Jeremy... currently senior security strategist at Gong. I gave you a promotion yesterday and called you a CISO, and so I apologize for that. Or maybe not. It depends on which side of the coin you're on in terms of whether you like that or not. But Jeremy, you've held some really awesome roles. You were a security strategist at Mimecast, which is a competitor to Proofpoint. You've done security sales engineer with Tenable. You were incident response, for IBM, and then you've got a really cool story about how you got into cybersecurity as well. Do you mind sharing that with the audience?
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, hi, everyone. Thanks for joining in, and thanks, Neil and Jeff, for having me here. As Neil mentioned, longtime listener and first-time guest, so super excited to share some wisdom. By the way, when I was sitting in the green room, it's 5 o'clock here in California, so you guys were mentioning Fogo de Chao. I'm Portuguese myself, so when you mentioned Portuguese Brazilian steakhouses, my stomach started turning. I was like, oh, I'm getting hungry.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Awesome. But yeah, so Yeah, going into cybersecurity. So originally, I went to a university in Little Newport, Rhode Island. So I'm originally from Massachusetts, the Boston area, and went to school in Rhode Island and always thought I wanted to do criminal justice. It was a big criminal justice school, and a lot of people that graduated went on to become state troopers, local law enforcement, federal law enforcement, etc. So I go to school there. I actually get my undergrad, my bachelor's degree in something called administration of justice, which is just a fancier name for criminal justice. And as I'm getting ready to graduate, I'm actually speaking. They brought up 10 senior panelists, seniors at the time, and we could speak to incoming freshmen. I remember the day. It was actually May 1st, which, believe it or not, is Law Day. And so I always remember that. So it was May 1st where I like to say my life changed. And I'm sitting there, and my parents in the audience, friends and family, all these prospective students that are thinking about coming to the university. And we're just going and talking about, what we've done in the last 4 years, how we've gotten to that point in our life, what internships we might have done, different extracurricular activities we might have taken. So I'm speaking there. Doesn't really matter what I say, but I finish. As I'm finishing, everyone is kind of gathering around. Students are kind of coming up to us and saying, "Oh, great job. Can I pick your brain a little bit? Can I ask you this question?" or whatever it might be. All of a sudden, this big guy in a suit walks up to me. And I'm like, "Oh, who's this guy?" And he goes, "Are you Jeremy?" And I said, "I am." And he introduces himself. And he was running cybersecurity in the East Coast for Raytheon. And he goes, "I think what you should do is come back to school and do an internship with me and then go and get your master's degree. I'm going to be one of the professors as well. And it's a 1-year program. So you start, as soon as you graduate, you're starting in the summertime and you're just taking classes and classes and internships and cramming it all in." Of course, my parents, I don't think they really wanted me to be a police officer. So I'm small. You can't like, I'm only 5'5", so they're like,
oh yeah, that's totally small, says the guy who's just barely 5'7".
we're a little short in security. And so, he comes up to me and he mentions, he's like, you should do this internship, look about this program. So long story short, I actually get my first start by going into Raytheon. So I did a summer internship. Now, at this time, I really didn't know anything about cybersecurity. I was like, that's a sexy term. And
could you spell it at least? Could you spell cyber?
I could spell it.
Okay,
cool. Here's a great debate. Is it 2 words or is it hyphen?
Oh, let's save that. Let's save that one for the pit.
Do you have a soapbox on this one too, Neil?
Oh my God!
Anything you don't have an opinion on?
So that's 2 different things to the soapbox question, Jeff. But we're gonna let Jeremy continue.
So I get my practical experience and I learn on the job, which for me was awesome because it wasn't just about reading this textbook and going through school. It was actually, going online and protecting Raytheon at that time. And we were sitting right next to security analysts and also management. And there was a lot of skills we learned through that. And it wasn't just about, like I said, coding or, writing certain commands. It was about, can you present to leadership? Mm-hmm. So here's a report. Present, learn how to speak, learn how to listen, learn how to present on yourself and, give recommendations. And I started to get into this. And I was like, wow, I kind of really like this stuff. And then it all kind of fast tracked. And then from there, I went back to school, started taking courses, and I got an internship with the ATF, Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms, out of Boston. And I was, as you can tell at this point, I'm still like, do I want to do federal law enforcement? I was starting to change a little bit. Like, do I really want to go into cybersecurity? So I get into the ATF. Once again, this is a paid internship, which was awesome. And they were like, "You're young." They're like, "We have a project for you." And I was like, "Okay, what is it?" And they were like,
famous last words of anybody in the government. I have an opportunity for you to excel.
Exactly.
Yep. And so they said, "We're not really good at running social media. And so would you," it was a whole project, and there's some things I can obviously talk about, some things I can't, but it was about really executing on Facebook. And so it was creating certain profiles, certain groups that they, I think to this day, still may leverage and execute. And it was all different things about, really the concept was around open source intelligence.
Yeah.
Can we create platforms and profiles where we can gain intelligence fast on our targets and certain things? So it was really cool. And so I never really got the, ATF. I was like, I'm gonna like shoot guns and kick down doors. No, I was sitting behind the computer reading reports and creating social media. So I knew at that point, I was like, this is cool stuff. Let me continue down the security path. So I ended up getting my master's from South Regina in 1 year as well. So got a master's in cybersecurity and homeland security. Actually, it's a dual degree.
Nice.
But so anyway, that's kind of how it started. From there, fast track. I became a consultant. I was actually working for a company called Resilient, which is a SOAR. For those listening in, it's a security orchestration automation response. So incident response. Can we take all these alerts, automate that, orchestrate that, pipe it into different technologies, and help incident responders respond quickly to different events and incidents? Till this day, I still, like, you can fact check this one. Resilient, from what I know, came up with that acronym SOAR. Bruce Schneier, Bruce Schneier was our CTO. And I believe it was in conjunction with him and our CEO at the time that had come up with that acronym. And so we marketed it. 2.5 years later, working for the company, get acquired by Big Blue. So worked at IBM. IBM then at that point said, everybody forget your titles. So we were a 100-person startup, literally 100 employees, 100 customers, going to 300,000. So life overnight changed.
Wow.
From a culture standpoint as well. And they looked at me, and at that time, actually my title was, I believe at that time was like customer success engineer or technical account manager. And they said, forget the title. We actually want to see, what are you doing? And when I explained to them, I was going on site, I was building playbooks, I was traveling around the country and working with some of the largest organizations on incident response. I said, you're going to be part of our incident response consultant team, which is now, I believe they call it.
I think it's X-Force now. Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So was one of the first kind of people in that division, in that department, when I started with IBM. And
so I real quick, I hate to interrupt you, but when you talk about X-Force, did you have what was that before or after Deadpool 2, when Deadpool coined X-Force during Deadpool 2, and then which one did you cringe at, the Deadpool 2 use of X-Force, or?
I want to say it was probably before, but I cringed a little bit. I was like, wait a second, somebody must be they must be doing their research here,
right?
But yeah, anyway, so I worked at IBM, like I said, originally from Boston, so this is all in the East Coast. And at 25 years old, they gave me the opportunity that you could move anywhere in the world. So packed the bags, the girlfriend and I, and we ended up going to the West Coast, which I now reside in Southern California.
Nice.
So that takes me up to California from there a little faster. Yeah.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
I was going to say, from there, I was working at IBM, and then I switched paths. Tenable reached out, the vulnerability management company, and I worked for Tenable for 2.5 years as a sales engineer. So I went from consulting, and I said, consulting's great. I was a little sick and tired of, trying to log 40 hours a week and customers. I said, I kind of
billable hours are a bitch, aren't they?
They are. Yep. I was like, well, I was sleeping for 8 hours, so I don't know how to bill that. But worked at Tenable for years, and then I worked for a couple other companies, including Mimecast, where I spent the last also almost 3 years, and now I'm at Gong.
So the ATF thing, it sounds super interesting, especially coming from the government side. What was did you actually? I know you said you built Facebook pages, and if you can't talk about what you saw, then that's fine. But at least, did you see some weird stuff while you were doing that type of mission?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
What's the weirdest thing you can talk about that you saw?
Weirdest thing I can talk about. Well, there's a lot of crazy people. I'll say that.
Well, you said social media, so I think that's like everybody.
That's the foundational layer right there.
Especially Facebook,
everything
right?
is predicated on crazy people.
Okay, so Jeremy has confirmed crazy people on Facebook. Cool. We didn't really need you to do that one, but thanks. We appreciate that.
So knowing your target audience, right? You're going to see some stuff. So. We would create Facebook profiles. We would engage in conversations about, realistically, working at the ATF, and it's in their name, alcohol, tobacco, firearms. Yeah. A lot of the way you engage with illegal guns on the street is through drugs. So can you create profiles? Can you engage conversations with illegal substances? And I wouldn't say targeting, But we would join, for example, I picked a high school, which I knew in Massachusetts, that was more of a rough area, a higher crime area. And I joined the class of 1976 high school Facebook group. From there, I just started clicking everybody.
Wow.
Accept, or invite. Within 24 hours, I remember I went back to my manager at the time, the actual agents in the field, and they were like, holy crap, you have like 180 friends in 24 hours? I was like, yeah, people accept anything. And it was more to build up.
Was this a sock puppet account? Like, it didn't have your face, it didn't have your name. It was a completely made up persona, and you just went to a high school that you knew. You made a profile that was built on the year that you knew that you graduated high school, and you just started clicking on "Be My Friend" on Facebook.
Exactly. I still remember. I know it's not around anymore, but I can tell you.
Your face, Neil.
Oh.
It was Neil's face as the picture and Jeff as the cover photo.
I was gonna say the only thing that would have been creepier about that is it was Neil's face and Jeff's body, and then that we had a different conversation altogether on that one.
You'd finally be taller.
All right. We back.
Right? I have to separate the two of you.
I told you we were going to be the old guys throwing tomatoes at you from the balcony.
Exactly. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, being in that area, sports is huge. So my Facebook profile picture was some image of a Tom Brady jersey.
Yeah.
And my cover photo was actually, it was hunting. So it was pictures of deers and stuff like that. So I start getting in the minds of, okay, maybe this guy owns some guns, or maybe this guy likes hunting. So so that was about a 6-month project that I engaged on. That, from what I know, was pretty successful. And like I said, I think they use different variations of it at that time. But
so we've got a lot of folks who are super interested in OSINT. Obviously, OSINT plays a huge role in cybersecurity and everything we do. We've got tons of people who participate in OSINT CTFs all the time. Sock puppet accounts are really critical when it comes to kind of being good at that. What if you had to give some tips or some thoughts on what makes a good sock puppet account, or how somebody stands up a good sock puppet account? What would kind of be your top 3 things?
Yep. Number 1, know your audience. Know who you're actually trying to target. If you're trying to create a
I think that's
profile
actually the answer
for...
to like 75 different questions.
right?
Like,
it's not so simple.
Let's start with every answer with know your audience.
Know your audience.
Is that right?
Spot on.
Is that right up there with Facebook's filled with crazy people? Check,
No,
Jeremy.
But honestly, Jeremy, you're spot on that. It's like, duh. But
yeah,
some people don't do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing is it takes time. It takes commitment. Like you're not gonna, whatever your intentions are, whether you're working for law enforcement, whether you're doing this in the dark net, whatever your use case may be, it takes time. It takes persistence as well. And you've got to be one. It's kind of like real world stuff. It's relationships. You got to build your relationships. You got to know who you're talking to. You got to sometimes be likable as well. And sometimes, and I think Facebook is one of the methods. But once you get that individual, for example, in my case, so let's say we start engaging in a conversation with somebody and you start going down this rabbit hole, it's, 6 weeks later and they're serious about doing something. It's not just the Facebook conversation. We're doing everything else. Now we have a name. Now we're going back. We know what high school they went to. We know where their family lives. We know where they live. We know we are doing so much more. I'm a big OSINT guy. I love doing that as a side project as well. Shout out to Michael Basil. I took in his class before years ago back at Black Hat. He's actually one of the advisors on Mr. Robot and does all kinds of stuff like that. Great books out there. Recommend any of the viewers out there. It's like OSINT top tips. He's created like 5 or 6 of Michael Basil's name, but super informational stuff of how to leverage all these different sources and then gather that data and bring it in and then start creating those reports for whatever your desires are.
Yeah, that's awesome. Like I think OSINT's always one of the greatest. I think it's so much fun in cybersecurity, and I'm grateful for organizations like Trace Labs that put in the effort to help law enforcement find missing and disparaged individuals, and a lot of the other organizations that are out there. And so super interesting topic. Let's talk a little bit, and we did have this question actually did come up, so I want to push. I do want to push this one if I can find it again. While I'm looking for this question, what exactly is a cybersecurity strategist? What is your day-to-day? There it is, right there. What is your day-to-day like, and what does it mean to be a cybersecurity strategist?
Yeah, so it's definitely a newer term. I'll say that. So title exactly is senior security strategist, and then there's a little comma, and then it says office of the CISO. So at Gong, we have a CISO. As most of us know what CISO's roles and responsibilities are. But from there is so much demand, especially in a lot of tech companies and a lot of organizations worldwide, where that individual, that CISO, that individual can't be everywhere at once, even in a virtual environment, where they're getting pulled into many different directions. And Neil, I know you know this. Yeah. And so what we've done, or what the organization did, is they created what we called an office of the CISO team. So almost like, think of it as like the executive branch of the president of the United States. And what they're doing is they have taken, it's a team right now of 5 of us total, and spread all across the world. And we're all security strategists. And so another title that a lot of organizations, even that I work for, that's very similar, field CISO. So it's like, think of it as like junior CISOs or mini CISOs.
Yeah.
And so we are still responsible for example, my day-to-day could be anything from helping out our go-to-market, our sales teams when they're trying to sell our product and they get security or privacy or compliance pushback. Gong is a revenue intelligence.
I was going to say, you should probably talk a little bit about what because I mean, for those who don't know Gong collects a ton of data on people.
Yeah, so so Gong is a revenue intelligence platform. So what that means is it's geared for customer facing. So let's take your typical sales rep. And as you are having conversations with your prospects and your customers, a lot of the times, like for example, Jeff, like your manager might say, "Hey, you had great conversations this week. How did they go?" And you might go, "Well, it went pretty well. I think we're going to move this deal along. This one, maybe we'll talk again in a couple of weeks. But yeah, overall, it was a pretty good week." Everything's opinion based. And so if I can gain the actual reality to that, the whole tide changes. And so what's happening is I call it CAD, capturing. That's the first acronym. So the first letter of the acronym, CAD, the C. We capture email, calendar, CRM data, Zoom meetings, or Ring Central. So if this was a Zoom meeting right now, we're capturing it. Once this is done, we're processing it with our processing engines and then doing all speech to text translation.
I was going to say, you're doing a ton of AI on the speech to detect too, right? So everything that's said, you're transcribing it.
Exactly. Over 77 or 70 plus languages are supported around the world as well. So even if you're speaking in English and someone's speaking in Spanish, we can still effectively do that. And what it's doing is it's providing insight or analyzing that data using AI, using machine learning, and it's spitting out pretty much and delivering that result, which is anything from, Jeremy talked 42% in this call. Neil mentioned these 4 competitors. Jeff is trying out the new messaging, but took 28 seconds too long per our average as a company on slide number 4. So it will get very in-depth and it's a lot of visibility into kind of what you're saying, how you're saying it, and what you're doing. And so I just saw one statistic that came out. This is actually pretty interesting. Not to derail the conversation, but Gong just came out with their kind of like quarterly or monthly report saying that more than 55% or 60% of cold calling or sales, when they're doing that, if you actually swear, you have a better result of getting the next steps.
Are you serious?
Wow. So interesting stuff.
Jeff, there you go.
Neil, you can now be in sales.
I'm swearing more.
Oh, no, don't you put that on me. Don't you put that on me. So I think the point of that divergence, though, right, is you collect a ton of data, and I can confirm this. Like even with the clients that we're dealing with now, even when I've been now I'm on the vendor side, I've also been on the customer side. Like those compliance questionnaires, and they're like, "Hey, what are you doing with their data? How much data are you capturing?" When somebody pushes back on that, that's a pretty hardcore conversation with some customers.
Absolutely. So that is going back to the original question. That's a lot of my daily job. So it's getting on conversations with other CISOs, other senior directors, and it doesn't necessarily have to be security as well. To your point, a lot of privacy lawyers, a lot of compliance GRC individuals explaining AI models, explaining machine learning models, explaining For example, Gong, a lot of people think that we do like sentiment, for example. So if I raise the pitch of my voice right now, I'd be like, wow, Neil, that was great. Does that actually mean I'm more excited? And so we actually don't do that, but they've been toying around, I think in the years past of like, do we do a little bit more sentiment in, but it was too much, of course, bias into it.
So Jeff, you and I are no longer doing another sales call on your Carbon Black Zoom meetings because I'm not having my stuff recorded by Gong anymore.
Yeah, no kidding. It does beg the question of like, are you turning salespeople into robots, and where's the creativity and the personal side of this? Because that actually, from my perspective, that's a hugely valuable piece to it. Like if you don't connect with the customer and all you're doing is being a robot and saying, oh, I am now done with that slide because I ran out of time. Next one, people hate it. And people hate slides to begin with. Like I know probably my first meeting with you, Neil, that, I didn't even do a presentation because I was like, okay, what's your opinion about PowerPoint? Oh, we hate it. I was like, great, let's just have a conversation.
Yeah.
And it totally changed things, right? But some people will like to have a PowerPoint. And I would think that those analytics don't necessarily allow you to capture that creativity. How do you respond to something like that?
Yeah, so actually, inside the platform, obviously it's very customizable where you can kind of include different stuff. But I mean, even like what I mentioned, go into that example about creativity, even using swear words, right? Who would have thought that using the F word actually results in a better conversation? And so
you were imparting bad habits on everybody who's listening right now because they're like, I'm going to go into sales and I'm just going to start dropping the F bomb every single time I talk to somebody. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, but that's the whole point of it. I remember, so back in my previous role, that's how I first heard of Gong. I was a user. I remember the first time we got Gong, I was like, this is recording me? I was like, oh man, like there's a lot of, I think at first, there's another statistic out there that says like the first 12 to 14 days is pretty uncomfortable for people that are used to doing that. And then once you train them, once you get over, once you show them the insights and the coachability that you gain from it, I'll say this. I remember when I first got it, I was very hesitant and then kind of eat my own dog food, right? Like when I work here, I can go through conversations and I'm a big sports guy. So big New England Patriot fans, I'm sure I'll get some hate in the comments, but like why is Tom Brady?
I'll give it to you live.
we don't have to wait for chat to respond to that one.
Honestly, working for a company that was headquartered in Boston was a flipping nightmare.
That's the best thing in the world. But like when you look at, I'll pick sports stars. It doesn't have to be football, but when you look at sports, what's the one thing that they do when they're done with a game? They're watching tape. They're looking for the next component. What did I do right? What did I do wrong? What did I look right? If you take that mindset and you apply that, you actually start to overcome that whole kind of not embarrassment, but that whole like, oh man, like everyone, the big brother mentality, right? We hear that all the time. Well, it's big brother. If you look at it that way, I mean, yeah, it's recording conversations, but if you're actually looking at the end results, it completely changes things. I mean, I will say we have 36,000 customers globally. A lot of them are publicly referenceable. A lot of them are our sponsors. Gong just got a 250 million Series E last summer. So it's a massively growing company. There are competitors in the space, of course, but yeah, we'll see where it goes.
So it's funny you mentioned the tape thing, right? Because I mean, this is something I'm hugely passionate about as well. I tell pen testers all the time, go read breach reports, go read all these things that these reports that like SecureList and Kaspersky and Symantec and all these other folks go put out there. So I mean, I think that's a huge key takeaway that I think not just applies at sales or strategy or cybersecurity, from a generalist perspective. If you're red team, if you're blue team, if you're doing anything in this space, consuming everybody else's, I almost went cynical and said mistakes, but it could be successes and mistakes at the same time, is probably the best way to gain knowledge in this space.
Yeah. No, I agree. The whole concept of that, I call it the game tape. having that. Like I said, we use it internally. So I can see now inside of when we're going through, it's a little more salesy, but when we're going through deals and someone's saying, oh, this deal's going to close at the end of July. You've never even talked about security or privacy or like, are you sure this is actually going to close? And so we use it internally where we can see trackers of how sales reps are doing. So it's actually, like I said, it's interesting. It's an interesting concept. I can see why at glance I was right there too. I was like, oh man, this is recording me. So it's an interesting phenomenon. As you can imagine, the conversations that we have are very similar to this. Like we get conversations like, well, explain to me how we're going to do this. To your point, where is the data? Who has access to that data? So
I think that's a fantastic transition to this question from Dev, right? Because in those conversations with privacy lawyers and CISOs and folks who are asking those questions, do you find GDPR compliance more difficult than anything in the States?
Yeah, I would say so. Now, a lot of Gong is the platform itself. It's all about consent as well. So there are different states, there are different countries worldwide that have different consent options. Some states, I can just record you and I don't need your consent, versus other states or other countries, it has to be a two-way consent, or two individuals and two parties have to both legally consent to that. GDPR is obviously around the two-way consent. There's a lot of different restrictions when we start talking, for example, Germany. Germany is always a more difficult conversation.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
There's some interesting things.
For those locations that have two-way requirements, how often do people, like, if I'm having a first call with a customer, I can't imagine that customer is going to be, oh yeah, absolutely, record me. It's all good. There's no way.
Yeah, so
typically, how do you deal with that?
Layers of defense. So,
meaning he skirts the issue quite significantly.
Layers of defense. There's different consenting options. Yeah, there's different consenting options. For example, I'm not pitching the product, but of course, like
this is not a product pitch at all. We're taking this from a product.
We have so many GDPR conversations. Though, and GRC kind of compliance questions. Like this plays into exactly. Yes, all this information is really good, but
that's what I want to make sure the audience is taking away from this, right? We're having a privacy conversation. We may be using Gong because, holy cow, their level of invasive data gathering is freaking sane. And so I just want to make sure everybody's hearing this as a GRC and a privacy conversation, not a Gong data pitch by any stretch.
Yeah. It's a difficult question, or difficult even topic to get really into, because a lot of things like GDPR, like in my opinion, GDPR is pretty vague. And so,
they're not vague on that penalty.
That's true, right? But a lot of the times it's like, oh, you've got to gain consent. So, for example, we provide different consenting options. So one, you can have, for example, something called an audio prompt. So it's actually literally a bot. When you join a Zoom like this or GoToMeeting, Teams, whatever it might be, it will actually literally say, you're now being recorded. Same thing.
I've heard that one before. Yeah.
Yep. Same thing if you're calling into, I don't know, some type of huge call center, for example, like Costco, and I need my refrigerator fixed. Very similar. Two, if it's an actual set up calendar meeting, we're actually providing what you call a consent page. So you've literally got to click join and I give my consent, or you click join but don't record. So imagine there's 20 people in this conversation. All it takes is one person to click join but do not record or stop recording. The entire recording stops. So that's the other thing too.
How bad does that tank, the data gathering that you're doing when one person says, you can't record me?
The more data, the better, of course, right? That's the answer. But of course, especially when usually when people are clicking don't record, that's the juicy conversation. That's the juicy conversation.
That's the one that you really want to.
Like, exactly. Damn it.
Oh, we made this far. Exactly.
It's like, hey, Neil, I got a secret, but I'm not going to tell you.
Oh, Jeff, I want to record this. Can I record this and just not tell you? Can we do that? Obviously companies who gather a ton of data have to take GDPR seriously. I don't think anybody questions that. There's no real easy way to ask this question. So if you want to not answer, then that's fine. My feelings won't be hurt. But do you worry Do you worry about privacy regulations globally and whether you're doing enough? And more so, not that like specific target at Gong, but has privacy impacted you so much that you go, oh my God, I hope we're doing the right things?
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. And I think that's just because there are so many new regulations that are coming. And we hear it all the time, even in the news, where there's new countries coming out and they start saying, we're going to create our own version of GDPR or X, Y, and Z. A lot of it it's going to be a battle, not for, I'll say this, take my Gong hat off. It's going to be a battle for the companies like Gong that have a lot of this type of data, because you need to start to prioritize where is our customer base, where do we want to continue to do business in, and then let's go try to be compliant in those countries, in those states, for example, because there's a lot of stuff out there. Like I know there's different projects we're working on. Like, do you go get a high trust certification for different healthcare industries? Do you start going into finance stuff if you want to start breaking into that industry? There's always going to be different requirements depending on that industry that you're breaking in. Never mind the country that they're operating from or calling in from. So there's a lot out there. So yeah, I mean, I think it's a good thing though, where it's like it's not one of those things that I would say keeps me up at night as far as privacy, but it definitely, you got to stay on top of it. Luckily, we've got a team that not only does researching, but they're doing all of the, for example, SOC 2 audits and ISO audits, ISO 27701 audits. But that's great on a surface, but you need to actually put that to practice, right? Are you actually doing the things that are in certs?
So let's flip the script on this a little bit, because you talk about the make sure you're actually doing what it is you're doing. We've seen instances. British Airways is an instance of this. Marriott has now got hit with their second breach now in the last 5 years. But they've been able to escape, specifically the GDPR. We joked about the 15% from GDPR, but they've been able to escape that by finding legal loopholes where they arbitrate in London instead of in Germany, even though it doesn't really matter. We talk about these privacy rules coming out. Do you think that we're doing that just paying lip service to privacy, and there's really no point?
Yeah, a tough question. I mean, I just don't think there.
Welcome to cyber insecurity.
I'm like, depending on the mood of my day, yes and no. No, but like it's tough because it's almost out of control in some aspect of it, where when I mentioned there's no like governing worldwide organization that's saying this is the standard, this is what we need to do. Now everybody make your variations off of it. It's kind of like, GDPR was the big newer one that has come out. Even in California, we've got CCPA. I was talking to a customer today where interesting, on one of those consent pages, won't give out too much information, they were like, hey, we have in California, there's a privacy for dark settings. And I was like, what? They're like, yeah, you have to have like a dark setting thing now in CCPA. I'm like, okay, I need to go fact check that. And they're like, that button needs to be potentially the same color as that button, or else it could potentially create bias. And
wow.
I'm learning too. Like, whoa, that's interesting. Now I got to go read go find that if that's true. That honestly, what happens, I let the lawyers go at it there. But
yeah,
but that stuff like that's interesting, where there's always going to be these new things that come up, and it's tough for organizations to kind of stay on top of where they have to get compliance from, where they have to meet those privacy regulations, especially as we're talking most organizations nowadays, most enterprise, Fortune 1000, they're global organizations. They're global organizations where people are everywhere. So it's a challenge.
So I want to pick on something that is definitely a soapbox item for me. But since we're on the GRC side, and since you work for the Office of CISO and you happen to work for a vendor, I'm absolutely going to take this opportunity to talk to you about TPRM and what is your take on the TPRM process?
It's another good one. So I have to deal. So we are intertwined in obviously third-party risk management. So everything we do, I mean, even so. Okay, so
here comes. This is the tap dance, folks. This is the tap dance.
Exactly. I'm like, all right, now the juices are flowing.
Jeremy's like, hold on, I've got a call.
I'm waiting for his internet to go. I'll be like, oh, rolling brown out, Neil. I can't do the stream anymore.
Exactly. It's okay. So it is once again, I hate to use this phrase again, but it's all over the place. So, and for most organizations, I think that's because they're losing a handle of, there's so many different vendors. How do you judge the vendor's supply chain? How do you judge the risks that they cause to you? You know what most people do? They send out, this is what they do. They send out a security questionnaire and say, fill this out.
Yeah.
It's got 30 to 50 questions on. It's standard out of the box. They probably Googled it or took it from some other vendor that they got asked. And then you fill it out. They don't read it. And then you never hear from it again.
Yeah.
And you're not doing justice on the vendor that you're working with. You're not doing justice for yourself. Yeah. Because when it comes to risk and it comes to all the third parties, I mean, I couldn't even imagine an organization. I'm just picking, I have a Coca-Cola over here. All the different organizations and third parties that Coke deals with. Just think about supply chain, right? Their supply chain, creating cans and delivering and logistics. Like, and I don't know the people at Coke, but I'm like, are they really going in depth on every little security and privacy that all those different organizations, the people that make the little turn that makes this conveyor belt move, are you up to code? Are you up to security? So it's a lot of it's risk acceptance. That's a whole nother kind of topic that we can talk about too. Like, what is your threshold of risk acceptance? But yeah, it's kind of a hassle. I mean, it's a challenge right now. It's definitely a growing continuously, and I believe it's going to be a hot roll for the next 5 years plus. So anyone kind of listening, when you're looking at like, maybe I don't have the real big technical skills, or you don't like coding or scripting or engineering, but like, I really do want to be involved. Third-party risk management is a huge field we see right now. We're hiring. Yeah. Anyway, little pitch there, but
I mean, the reason I obviously when I mentioned it, right, I utterly despise third-party risk, and I make no qualms about that. I think it's the dumbest process ever. We had
That's what the lawyers are for.
Oh my God, we got a good friend of mine, Gerald Auger, who's come on stream, and we got into it over third-party risk because I like you played it very political, and I'll give you the props for that, but I'm very, very adamant about it. You're going to give me a 1,000-question questionnaire as a Series A startup, knowing full well that I'm either going to lie about it. I'm not saying I'm doing that. I'm just saying I'm either going to lie about it, or I'm not going to be able to answer it, or some variation in between there. You're going to give the same form to Amazon, and Amazon's going to tell you to go pound sand and give you their SOC 2 report, which doesn't answer maybe 25% of the questions you've got on that, but you're going to accept it from them because it's Amazon. But what if Amazon said that they weren't doing pen test, or what if Amazon said that they weren't doing some stupid requirement over here? Would you actually go tell Amazon to go pound sand? You weren't going to do business with them? And the answer is probably no, because you know that you need them. And so like that bias right there just inherently creates just the BS that surrounds the entire third-party risk management process.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. Like there's certain things, like you can tell the organizations, for example, like the customers that we have, you can tell the customers that are serious about third-party risk, and then the customers that go overboard, and then also the customers that don't care. Right? They're not doing anything. And so it's a mixed bag, which is, I think, the reality of it. And I think it's a reality of it where there's not, again, kind of like guidelines and guardrails that are helping organizations do stuff. I mean, I was answering a security questionnaire a couple of weeks ago, and it was only 45 questions, but I need evidence. I need proof.
Yeah.
I need to show. And that takes time.
Yeah.
So there's got to be a better solution of like, I get it. Every organization needs to evaluate risk and acceptance as much as they can, but there also has to be a balance of, where are we going to get this done or not? So
you brought up the risk acceptance conversation. Let's dive into that one a little bit, right? So from an office of the CISO perspective, from a third party risk perspective, what is the difference between risk acceptance and risk avoidance or risk mitigation? What are those different kind of nuances that pertain to risk in an organization?
I have a one-word answer for it.
Go for it.
Ownership.
Okay.
Ownership.
Okay.
If you're going to accept risk, typically what I've seen is you need to put the ownership on somebody or some team. Now, I'm not saying that's the right thing to do, but that's typically what I have seen, where it's like, okay, We know these guys may have not passed their certification, or they didn't pass this questionnaire. They don't do DLP. They don't do vulnerability scan, pen testing. We're accepting that risk. We know there may be vulnerabilities in the code, et cetera. We're accepting that risk. We're now going to add it and buy this product or service, whatever it might be. From there, I think there has to be some type of ownership, some type of buy-off into not just getting that vendor. Depending on what that vendor is, there's a level of, there's a classification of kind of what they're doing. A gong, right? We're recording conversations. It's pretty up there with organizations versus, I don't know, I make pencils for this company.
Right.
And so like depending on how it affects the business, I think that plays into it a lot. But risk acceptance, I think the keyword that I kind of always go back to is ownership.
Who's the right owner to accept risk for a business?
This is a tough one because
whoever's willing to accept it. The person who didn't leave the meeting.
I asked this because I have seen some very, very scary risk acceptances in my career. I've seen some people accept risk on the multitudes of millions of scale who were not qualified to accept risk on that.
Yeah, I think, ultimately that decision comes down, no matter what, it's a business. So ultimately that decision comes down to the CEO and the board members. But obviously we know that doesn't really happen most of the time. Right? The power is more in legal and security.
Here's a follow-up question to both of you on this. It's kind of more of an industry-wide question, I think. Like, isn't this what cyber insurance should be handling?
God.
Like, if you take a look at risk acceptance, right? Like, I think everyone has looked at cyber insurance as, oh my gosh, we just got popped. They're going to save our butts. But I think cyber insurance should be more targeted at this nuance of, well, we've got to accept some of this risk. We can't really quantify it. That's the piece that we're going to depend on cyber insurance for. It shouldn't be our crutch for not having a good security policy in place.
I'm gonna let Jeremy chime in first. I'm gonna let Jeremy chime in first on this because this is
you've got an attitude on this one.
I was gonna say, chat might as well start throwing soapboxes in chat on this one because this is you got me hyped up.
I'm interested in your perspective. I was talking with the cyber this buddy of mine works there, and I was like, well, I think you're targeting the wrong thing. So I'm really interested in what you guys think.
Go ahead, Jeremy.
Am I allowed to say that I think cyber insurance is one of the biggest jokes of the
Yes! Yes! I knew I liked this guy.
Absolutely, because I'll take this little snippet of the recording and give it to my friend.
I don't know if Don's recording it though.
We're not using GOG. It's fine. We're good here. Well, you two might be using GOG. God, is YouTube is Google using GOG and recording these?
Is recording everything. Everything.
Recording everything.
Okay, so you're not a fan of cyber insurance. That's good to hear. I thought we weren't going to be able to be friends anymore. So carry on.
You're on the same side of the soapbox. No. Okay.
Yeah, we're on the same side. I think it recently came up obviously through all this heightened the heightened last 2 years of ransomware, right? And like I don't really remember people talking about cyber insurance 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago until really in the last couple of years. Now you're seeing I know it was around, but now you're really seeing all these companies and all these like insurance companies being like, we'll provide cyber insurance. I recently bought a house and I was looking at mortgage rates and I was like, wow, this company that I might potentially go through also offers cyber insurance. And everyone, like, I feel like everyone's trying to get into it. Now, how effective it is? Well, I think, no.
Real conversations with real people. That's why you're here.
Yeah, I don't think it's very effective.
Effective?
I do not think it's effective. I think it's a play for insurance companies to take advantage of the times and make money and falsify organizations and to say, hey, spend, I don't know, $5 million on our cyber insurance, and in case you breach, we'll back you up. Let's say you get your $5 million back. Now what?
I think businesses, I asked the question to Jeremy about risk acceptance versus deference versus anything else. I think people have swung the pendulum and treated cyber insurance the same way that they treat any other insurance. It's a hedge against risk. And so they've decided that they're going to just accept every risk, or they're just going to defer every risk, or they're going to make cyber insurance their risk deferral process, and that's going to be their success strategy. Is, oh, I don't need to worry about risk because my cyber insurance is going to catch me for anything I do. I think we've nullified the risk conversation by bringing cyber insurance into it.
I was kind of hoping one of us would be on the other end of this argument because it's always more fun. But no, I seriously think that cyber insurance has done a major disservice to good security practitioners who've been fighting the battle for funding and projects to actually improve their security stance. And so, now, oh no, we'll just let insurance cover this.
So let me be the 10th man then for those who have seen World War Z. I'll be the 10th man on this. What I would say is cyber insurance is excellent for small to medium businesses or for Fortune 100 companies that have to answer to their shareholders and just need to hit the checkbox. I think that cyber insurance provides a realistic hedge against some type of ransomware attack that otherwise you would have to be accountable for a lack of security controls, right? Because you don't have to say, my EDR failed because I didn't have it up to date, or because I had an exclusion list. Because I don't have to worry. I don't have to show you my vulnerability scans. They're going to say, "Don't worry about it. I'm going to cover insurance. This will never go to court. It'll be protected by legal privilege." Cyber insurance has got it right, because remember, you pick up that call, you call cyber insurance. The cyber insurance is going to call a lawyer, and everything goes under legal privilege at that point in time. And so, it provides so much protection for a company. So I'll be the 10th man and say the pro of cyber insurance is you're damn right I get to bypass my risk. I don't have to do discovery. I don't have to show you my my pen test reports. I don't have to show you my my vulnerability scans. My insurance company, through their legal team, can handle all that for me. Yes, I am telling you that it is a deference of my risk.
Yeah.
Argue with me that that's a bad idea.
No, altruistically, it's a bad idea.
Why?
From a legal perspective, it's a great idea because you can hide behind your lawyers and ensure they're not culpable for the mistakes that you actually are culpable for. Altruistically, it's a bad idea because you're hiding your mistakes and not being held accountable for it.
But that's
hit the nail on the head on accountability.
But that's
accountability for it.
But that's your cybersecurity hat. When you put on that altruistic hat, that's absolutely your cybersecurity hat. But we put on your business decision hat. I don't want to pay. 100%. I don't want to pay 15% to GDPR. I don't want to pay, what is it for CCPA, $500 per incident to CCPA, whatever the case is. I don't want to go through the state regulations. I don't want to have to worry about losing my PCI certification or having to do a level 1 attestation every year, right? Because I failed my PCI assessment. I think from a business reason, I've saved so much money because I haven't had to do those things.
Mm-hmm. From a business hat perspective, absolutely. And I think it's done the disservice to the overall benefit of securing the environment. Whether it's an enterprise, whether it is an agency, or whatever. I think that is the downside of it. It's allowed us to rely on a crutch, even though our sprained ankle healed a year and a half ago.
That is a terrible, terrible analogy.
I know, isn't it
terrible? Chris coming through with, why are CEOs not held accountable when breached, but you see the CISO hanged out to dry? Who wants that one? Who wants that one?
Well, I hear the field CISO is hung out to dry first,
though. Maybe. I'll give you a quick story, and then I'll answer the question. And the story has to do, I was speaking at a conference not too long ago for an organization out here in Newport Beach. And I was on a panel, and the panel was talking about phishing. And I was talking about phishing education, how often you do simulations or tabletop exercises, how do you build an effective program, blah, 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 blah. On this panel, I was a little shocked, to be honest. There was 6 of us. 3 of us, I'll start with the negative, in my opinion. 3 individuals, lawyers, privacy, a CISO, said that they have very strict phishing policies inside the organization, saying if you fail a phishing test, we test you and you fail once, you have a manager call. They pretty much agree that this is some variation. This was happening within all their organizations. You fail twice, you lose your bonus. You fail 3 times, you're fired. So I started going to, and I come from a email security and phishing company previously before Gong. And I'm pretty passionate about this topic as well. And, I challenged them right on the panel where I said, how many times have you failed a phishing test? How many times is your CEO, going to Chris, your question here, how many times is your CEO, the board, or the CFO, not picking on any individual particularly, failed phishing tests? And I remember there was one individual, and this individual kept saying, like, in our organization, you fail once, you're done.
Oof.
And I'm like, I don't know if I believe that, first of all, but second of all, if it is true, I'm like, what happens if the CEO fails?
Yeah.
That individual's not going to fire themselves. We all know that. We all know the real answer.
Right.
Like, don't tell anybody all that. And it kind of goes into this concept here, Chris, of like, your question here, like, why are CEOs not held accountable? I would assume it's, they got to run a business, and at the end of the day, it's, depending on if they're regulated by the SEC and boards and stuff like it, depends on the size, depends on the industry, depends what they're doing. Of course, there's a lot of it depends and variations to that, but still, there has to be an accountability. And Neil, I see you jumping in. I was gonna
say, I'm waiting on this one.
there's something I want to reference too, and I know you and I were in the green room earlier talking about this, and it relates to this topic too. It's like, how do you build a culture?
Yeah.
From the top down,
yeah.
or however you want to, from the ground up or the top down. How do you build a culture of security with that? If you're demanding individuals are saying, we got breached, or we have a major security incident, you failed the phishing, whatever the example is, you're fired, you're let go, you're done, or you lose your budget. Aren't you just doing more harm than yourself as an organization? I mean, I get there's certain areas, right? If you've been breached 10 times in the last, week, maybe it's not actually the CISO's fault. Maybe we need to go look at, do they have the budget? Do they have the people? Are you listening from a board about what the actual risk is? Is the CISO or CIO, whatever the organization might be in that role, are you actually broadcasting it up to the board what the risk is of this organization and the ramification? There's so many variations and details to this, but it is a great question, Chris, because I don't personally see that changing anytime soon unless it's something catastrophic. But I just wanted to give that phishing story. You fail a phishing example, you're fired.
So I've heard that phishing story before, and first of not what I was going to chime in, but that's miserable. I've seen people literally say that, and I'm like, that's a toxic culture that I will never go work for, because that's horrible mentality right there.
First of all, it's not true.
No,
like
they're using threats of violence or threats of your termination to try to get you into compliance. That's a terrible toxic culture. I want to again. I'm gonna play the cynical role on this one. Somebody course correct me if you think I'm being too cynical on this one, right? So kind of 2 points, right? We have conditioned executive leadership that the CISO role is there to stop the hacks. If everybody agrees with me, I'll go on to the next point. If we assume that that's the role that the CISO has been portrayed in art and film that they're supposed to be doing in an organization, the CEO's role is there to increase shareholder value. So if we can agree on those two things, if the CEO fails to increase shareholder value, he does get fired. Ergo, if the CEO or if the CISO fails to prevent a hack, he should also get fired.
You're looking for a response? Yes.
I'm looking for somebody to argue that one.
I'm like, Jeff, you want to go at him first?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I agree that the first point is a target, but it's an unattainable target, right? It's like you should be aspiring to stop the hack, yes, but their role is not solely and exclusively to stop the hack. It is to help put the organization in a spot where collectively they can address and deal with those threats faster, earlier, more effectively, etc. So I think it's partially an evangelist role for security. It is partially a set the direction for your team. But you don't see a lot of head coaches that make it to the Super Bowl, lose the big game, and get fired.
I would retort that with saying that if, while I don't disagree with you in principle, we have failed completely to communicate the message up to the board as to what the CISO role is. And I'll look to Jeremy to keep me honest on this one based on what you've seen and what your experience is, right? Because the board doesn't see the role as an evangelist role. Otherwise, why would I give you money, right? Why do I give you money to be a Sermon on the Mount type of person for cybersecurity, right? I give you money to stop hacks. This company, Carbon Black, told me you're going to stop my hack. Proofpoint told me you're going to stop my hack. Microsoft said you're going to stop my hack, right? These tools that I give you money for, they say they're going to stop my hack. If these tools are not implemented correctly, clearly, CISO, you have failed to implement all these tools that you said to go out and buy that are supposed to stop these hacks.
But also, to your point, a CEO is not fired after one bad month or 2 bad months. It's after a track record of showing that the plan that they have put in place is not working over time. And that's where I think a CISO over time, they have failed. Their direction has failed, sure, over time. You're talking about a single event, and I think that's what the travesty is that we see, is that a single event shouldn't cause it. It should be a track record of failure, just like a CEO's track record of failure gets them fired. Jeremy? So that's my pushback on you.
Yeah. No. Neil, you mentioned there was one word. And you said,
No, I didn't say you were right. I just said I heard you. I want to hear Jeremy's point now.
You said one thing that stuck out to me, the most important, it's what we're talking about here. You said we haven't, as an industry, conditioned the CEOs, the boardroom of what that CISO role is. You're 100% right. Everyone's just like, oh, you're a CISO. Like if I told my parents, or not my parents, I could tell my parents, I'll pick on them. I could tell anybody, like even friends that don't really know cybersecurity, like, what do you do?
Wait, your parents know exactly what you do?
Parents have no idea. Probably listening to this right now. Like,
I still don't know what he does. He's using a whole lot of terms here.
I have no idea.
He's throwing around letters that don't go together into words.
But we've conditioned. Now, I will say, I think as an industry, and I truly believe this, I think as an industry we've progressed in the right direction in the last year and a half. But I only think the reason we've done that is because Neil's gonna, and this great for, I want a controversial argument in this one, because I think as the hacks have got bigger, as they become worldwide stage in news, people now, okay, I had an aunt call me when the Colonial Pipeline breach happened. It was like, living down in like the Carolinas, Jeremy, you work in technology and like whatever security thing you do, like, should I go to the gas pump? It's caused, now, as funny or not funny that story is, it has also in the last year and a half, 2 years, really put an emphasis on, I think, normal people that aren't necessarily in cybersecurity, like doesn't really know what cybersecurity, they're getting more of an acknowledgement and more of a knowledge of kind of maybe what necessarily what we do, but the field in general. And I think going with that, in my opinion, I think we've gotten I think we're heading in the right direction. I think we've gotten a little better. It's nowhere near. I mean, this is a perfect question and perfect example of how it's still a major, major problem. But I do think there's more of a understanding or more open mind to kind of like what's happening out there. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. It makes sense. But I'm waiting for you to stop talking for me to tell you are
right now. Neil is wondering if the collie just.
He's raging. He's getting red.
I'm like, can you stop talking so I can tell you how freaking wrong you are?
I was seeing Neil's lips get tighter and tighter, and his face get redder and redder. It was great.
I was like, shut up. You are so wrong. You are such the optimist. Like I do not think we are anywhere close to getting better. I don't think we're anywhere. Like you mentioned Colonial Pipeline. And again, I'm very aware that underneath this hat is written cynical. I'm completely fine with that, right? But here's the thing. Colonial Pipeline lasted for as long as it's a problem for the consumer. Once it's not a problem for the consumer anymore, it's gone, right? It's not an issue anymore. That until that changes, there will be no change in cybersecurity from a consumer perspective. I don't care how many colonial pipelines we have in the next 5 years, unless it happens every day and unless it inconveniences a consumer every day, and unless a year goes by where we've had back-to-back-to-back cyber attacks that have directly impacted a consumer, will somebody finally stand up and say, what the F are we going to do about these freaking cyber attacks? Until a consumer is generally displaced on a regular basis of their life, will we ever see the consumer care about cybersecurity? And I dare anybody to prove me wrong on that, because I think that has been, the banks have failed. Yeah, Jack just dropped the soapboxes in. The banks have failed us. I'm incredibly passionate about this. Ever since the banks started to doing preemptive fraud alerts for stolen credit cards and carding incidents, we have desensitized the people to giving a flying flip about freaking cybersecurity issues, and it's the biggest problem that we've gotten. And so, no, I don't think we've gotten any better. I don't think in the last year anything has changed. We've never had a significant event at all, period, dot, that has changed the scope or direction. And this leads me into what I am going to flip back over to you two gentlemen. This BS regulation from the SEC that says you got to have somebody from cybersecurity on the board, I think is the biggest load of garbage to come out of the SEC in a long time. I'm gonna step down and let you two take this one over.
I got 30 more seconds out of you. Why do you think it's the biggest BS of time? Do you think it's more? Do you think it's kind of like the cyber insurance topic we're talking about? Just it's there now, just do something, but like it's not actually going to mean anything. Or
okay, so some chairman of the board, some big fat old gray dude who's been on that board for 100 years and he's been on 5 other boards is gonna sit back and be like, SEC is gonna tell me I gotta have some cyber guy on my board. Fine, sit there. I don't want to hear anything out of you. Don't say anything. But chairman, you need to pay attention to this risk over here. I don't care. Profits are through the roof. Shareholder value is through the roof. I don't want to hear from you. That is what's going to happen. That's what's going to happen. It will not matter who sits on that board. The SEC isn't going to say you will have a cybersecurity person. That doesn't stop the chairman from listening to that dude sitting on that seat.
Oh, I totally agree with that. I agree with that. I saw that come out too, and I was just like, It's like where are all these jobs coming from? Who's gonna be in those roles too? Is it like, oh, you're still the CISO and now you're on the board too?
Yeah,
I'm sure some people.
And you're still reporting to the CIO, who you have to rat on to the board, and then
you're still getting fired.
You're still getting fired in a breach, right? No, this is a huge, giant, catastrophe. So yeah,
So Neil, you're just saying all that did was take one more night a month out of the CISO's personal time. It's like now he's got to be at a board meeting once a month again.
To sit there and at least say that he's fulfilled his fiduciary duties of sitting on a board seat when nobody's going to listen to him anyway. Now the CEO and the CIO,
then they'll yell at him.
Yeah, then they'll yell at him over the breach. Why didn't you advise us appropriately? So I apologize for the passionate about it, but that's why I think that I agree with both of you that our biggest failing, right, is that we have not communicated the job or the relevancy of the CISO. But we have failed to do that because it stems back from the financial services days where we failed to articulate to the consumer the value of cybersecurity, and therefore the consumer doesn't care. They're not fiscally involved. They're fiscally involved in gas prices today. They're fiscally involved in grocery prices. They're fiscally involved in inflation. They're fiscally involved in the stock market. They're not fiscally involved in cybersecurity.
I will say the companies that have proactively gone out and put a security person on the board or facilitated security conversations at board meetings, those are the ones I see are leading the way. The ones that are going to be reactionary here, to your point, Neil, I think that's a complete failure.
100%.
I think it'll help facilitate more of those companies who want to be the leaders to do so. But I think there's going to be a subset that are going to be complete failures, to your point. But I don't think it's pervasive.
I think there'll always be exceptions. I mean, like the board at Abbott when we were there, right? I mean, they were the ones who came down and said, "Thou shalt hire a CISO" after 135 years of being in business, right? I think that was, spot on leadership from their part. But I think I still very much see that as the exception, not the rule.
Yeah,
I pivot. I don't know if anybody wants to take this one on. I got hit up for my first board seat as a CISO. Somebody reached out to me and said, "Neil, we want to put a CISO on our board. Are you interested in this role?" So I I want to believe that is change. It was nice to have that conversation and to hear from somebody who's like, I want to put security on our board.
Are you going to do it?
I'm going to do it. Yeah, I'm definitely going to do it.
Okay.
I just
So what was? So I got to ask you, what
Yeah.
were the pros and cons? What went into your decision? Was it an immediate yes, or was it a let me think about it? Give me more details, and then obviously you talk through it with your wife, and
yeah. I mean,
made
it
a
was
decision, right?
it was obviously I needed a lot of details because obviously it was the first time I get in proposition for a job like that. I needed to talk to a lawyer because I wanted to know what my legal,
Right.
because you're sitting on a board, right? You now have a liability as a board member for that particular company. And so I needed to know what my liability was. I needed to know how I was going to get protected and things like that. And so I think the conversation was more around, I think I looked at it as not, am I being a member of a board in a company I believe in? More, am I being a member of a board where I believe in the board leadership, that I'm going to be able to have security influence? Back to our conversation about
Right.
having a CISO sitting on board. Can I have a conversation with this dude or the other dudes or dudettes that are on the board with me that I can say, like, this is a dumb decision from a security perspective, and we have good constructive conversation? And so I think that very much went into not only the interview process that I had done, but also like, just consulting with people who knew the people who were going to be on that board. What were their takes on things? What companies did they work at? Did they have any significant, cybersecurity events and things like that? And so it was probably like a month-long process of me doing just a ton of research to feel like if I said, hey, this is a bad decision, to the point I made earlier, are we actually going to be able to have a board conversation about it that says, okay, we should really talk about this being, a decision. But I still, at the end of the day, there was still that cynical side of me that says, I'm going to do this, and at some point in time, I'm going to have a disagreement, and I'm going to lose, and I know that I'm going to lose already because the business decision will weigh out.
Question for you, and this is going to be more of a rhetorical question. If we do start to see more of this, right? If the SEC is going to push this, or even just more boards and organizations are going to be more security conscious and want to add board members, do you think it puts the current, if this organization, I'm not picking on yours.
No.
Do you think, like, if there was already a sitting CISO, that it puts that individual at a really weird spot, that all of a sudden we're bringing a board member in that's a security board member?
That's a good question.
Like it's an interesting thing.
Yeah.
It's like almost thinking, okay, I'm at the top, I'm a C-level executive. All of a sudden, whoa, we just brought a board member in from another outside individual. And how much power do I have now? If that individual says, no, that's stupid, or we're going to design the product this way, or we're not going to service this country because X, Y, and Z, privacy regulation, whatever it might be. And all of a sudden it's like, oh okay. Like, am I in control?
That's actually a really good question. Good job on that one. I like that one.
Thank you.
My take was, when I thought about that, right? I thought about my role, and when we talked about it with the chairman of the board and things like that, when we talked about my role, the role is very much there that when the CISO of that company comes to us, so the board that I'm sitting on, they do, it's a financial services company. They are basically a fund manager that goes out and buys companies, and almost like a PE firm, basically private equity firm, right? And so I'm going to be talking to CEOs and CISOs of companies that they're acquiring to bring into that fund from that perspective. And so when I talked through that with them, and we talked about what that day in that life of that board CISO would look like, it very much was, okay, you tell me you do vulnerability scans. Okay, cool. I'm there to ask you the hard questions about just how you did those vulnerability scans. Pen test is a great example, right? If anybody who's heard me speak knows that I'm sickly passionate about how stupid penetration testing reports are in this industry. And so when you say, okay, we did a pen test report, and be like, who did it? How did they do it? What was the scope? What did you tell them to do? Like, I'm just going to like drill them down. I think that's the perception is there. And so I think, to answer your question, I would view it less about, is it threatening to my job if the board has a CISO sitting on the board? I would hope that they would see that as, holy cow, I can't snowball the board anymore because there's going to be a smart dude on the board that's actually going to be able to counter that. And so I imagine there'll be a little bit of that struggle where it's like, okay, I'm going to try to snowball the CISO. The CISO is going to call me out, and we're going to have a bad relationship because I called you out in front of the board. I see that as being a potential downside to that as well. But I view it more as, at least the impression that I've gotten from us forming this board of directors, that I'm there to provide that level of sanity check to people who come in and say, oh yeah, we're secure, don't worry about us.
Yep.
Yeah, That's like you are the one I am now most worried about. If you say don't worry about us, you're on my list.
But I mean, if you've been in a board meeting, regardless of big or small, like it's total. I mean, it's a dog and pony. It's a total clap show. I mean, there's nothing serious that happens at a board meeting. I mean, yep, your numbers look good, sales are up, have a fantastic day, go have a nice life, right? Type of thing. I'm oversimplifying, and again, that's just me being cynical. Not every board is like that, obviously, but you told a story about the phishing email. I want to tell a story about when I became a QSA, right? I was working for an MSP out of Ann Arbor. I was building their pen testing practice. I built a $5 million ARR pen testing practice in 18 months. They wanted to also do PCI engagements. And I had a very heart-to-heart conversation with the CEO, and I said, I want you to understand something. I'm technical. I'm a hacker, been a hacker my entire life. I know computers. If you want me to be a QSA, we're going to have customers who either love us or hate us. They're either going to love us because we are ridiculously strict, or they're going to hate us because we are ridiculously strict. And he's like, well, what do you mean? And I'm like, because I'm going to go in there and I'm going to read the PCI DSS and I'm going to execute on it to the letter, right? If it's like, these systems aren't in scope, I'm going to be like, nope, it says right here, if it affects the integrity of storing, processing, or transmitting card data, it's in scope. I see this system's on a flat network to this box. Guess what? It's in scope, baby. We're doing it, right? I very much see that this is how my first board experience is going to go. You want me there to call that CISO out when he says BS about a pen test report? I'm going to do that. And I'm waiting to see if I get fired off the board because I'm either too hard on these companies and they get really pissed off because they're losing deals left and right.
No, Neil, I actually think that this is exactly what Jeremy was talking about earlier with a salesperson who says, oh, yeah, no, it's coming in next month. Oh, I feel good about this last week. It is normalizing all of those conversations to reality versus not reality. Yeah. And I think, Jeremy, you're talking about the data doesn't lie. If you normalize all that data, same thing with this, Neil. I think if you go in with the expectation that you are going to baseline it, and your level of communication is not going to be sugar-coated for this company because they did XYZ, which you're passionate about, but shoot, they kept talking about XDR, so I hate them, right? Or whatever your soapbox of the day is.
But you're riding that fine line today, Jeff. Riding that fine line today.
Yeah. We'll see if I am back next week. No, but I think if you go in and you talk about the fact that you're going to normalize how you interact with those new potential companies that they want to invest in, and give them an accurate reality check that says this company is actually 5 times worse than the one that you talked to last week that said exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
Right?
I'm hoping for it.
They need that clear understanding. So kudos to you. Good luck. I think that's needed.
We'll see.
As long as it's not a glad handing. Oh yeah, no, they're fine. Yeah, okay.
No. If that's a very corporate. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't work for Query if they were just like glad handing security. I wouldn't work for a single company if they just glad handed security. But that's a principle for me. That's just out of the question whatsoever.
In 6 months, a year, whatever it is, we're going to have to get either a new article or another live stream. It's just like the views from Neil from the board level.
I hope so.
I think it would be really, really cool and really interesting to
I would love to have that conversation.
We're totally going to revisit all of our conversations of how to talk to the board as soon as you're on there, Neil.
As soon as I've listened to a few.
Exactly. Hey, remember when we had this opinion? Man, were we wrong.
So speaking of that, that's a great. I was actually going to go to questions because we got a lot of questions about it. But Jeremy, since you had a part of your transition into cyber, we talked about your communication with other people, and we've talked kind of ad nauseum about the stream about board level communications, knowing your target audience, and things like that. What is it that you've learned over years about communication, especially upwards to senior executives? I know we spent a lot of time trashing CEOs and trashing the board members and trashing the CISOs here in this conversation here tonight, but in a serious note, communicating upward, what are some good tips for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I love this topic because I I think sometimes in the security industry, I know we do it on live streams, we do it in normal conversations, we do it talking at the bar, where sometimes we can use a lot of acronyms, right? We've probably heard this a lot of acronyms, a lot of jargon that people are like, what? You make them fall asleep. So I think one is, I hate to, this is my theme of the night, understanding and knowing your audience, but also with that, understanding like taking sometimes your security hat off or wherever you are in your life. And like as a student going up to present to, executive members that are from all across different industries, knowing that audience, but knowing like why are you there? Continuously asking that question, why? So if I say something and I say, oh, it's great. I found this IP address. It comes back to this certain part of the world and we need to block it. Why? Why do we need to block it? And so justifying that. And so turning that conversation into an understanding, like, because there is a monetary value, there's a financial value, it's going to affect product, it's going to delay this, like showing numbers, showing scales, showing that. I think understanding the broader knowledge of who you're speaking to is also super important. Part two to that is listening. I think that's the other big quality that not us, but a lot of individuals, especially as younger, that's one of the things I learned in my career, like stop talking and listen. Like listen actively what's happening. You'll probably learn more by listening than you do actually sometimes speaking. And I can't stress that enough. And, that goes to like being a sponge. I know one of the ways I got, like I said, when I started in cybersecurity, I didn't graduate with like a computer science degree. So I'm like the worst, by the way, and I'll admit that I'm like the worst. I can't code for crap. Like script code, like that's not me. But like, that's okay. Like, I know one of the things that I was good about was being a sponge, listening to, kind of going backwards, listen to those acronyms, listen to the jargon, listen to the conversations, asking questions, being curious, all those little like goals and little kind of like techniques I use help me be able to at least engage in conversations with other people in different parts of the business. So communication, listening. The other thing is understanding the different terminology, knowledge, getting out of your mindset of you live in every day. Yeah, so it's great. We did a PCI audit and we failed and blah, blah, blah. But now we got to go back and get cyber insurance and it's going to be 10 million. Why? Like, why? Express it quick, why, and like explain it at a business level. Take it to that next level. So it takes practice, that's for sure. It's not one of those skills that's learned overnight.
If you're young in this field, so you stepped into that one. I appreciate that one. So if you're young in this field, if you're new, how do you get that practice? Where's a great place to get practice talking to people? Because obviously you're not going to take a SOC analyst and say go talk to the CIO about their PCI assessment. Where do you get that practice at?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is using the resources you have available to you. So not being afraid to use the power of tools that allow you to connect. LinkedIn. I know, Neil, you and I kind of connected over LinkedIn. Yeah. That's how we kind of began our friendship and relationship. And so I think
whoa, no, don't use friendship.
Did I say relationship?
You can say relationship. Don't use friendship.
That's right. I was like, that's right. You're cuddling with Jeff at Black Hat. That's right.
Wait, which word was that?
But yeah, using the tools to you, like a LinkedIn, to connect to people, ask people, get questions. Like there is no harm in being like, I had this recently where I spoke at that same event where we were talking about phishing, and it was actually a student from UCLA came up to me and said, could I grab 15 minutes of your time the next week? I'm passionate about getting into cybersecurity. I listened to what you're saying, and I would love to just pick your brain. Like, am I doing the right things? I thought that was the coolest thing in the world versus like getting all the sales and BDR stuff that comes into like, take a demo. Like, there's so much that stuck out to me. And that was just like, that was awesome to give back. And so being curious, asking people, connecting with people, trying to grab people's time. I think that's super important. I think it's a missed skill. I do think it's more difficult now, I think, because that's an argument too. Like people say it's more difficult now because, we're in virtual, we're not physically. It's okay. Meet virtually.
Yeah.
Like, there's still platforms to do things, reach out, connect, ask people in your organization. Internships are great. Even I remember did one thing I advised this to, like maybe you're in IT right now, or was just talking to a guy that's in help desk, loves the idea of like cybersecurity and like sales engineering. I was like, I'd love to move into that field. Like, what do you recommend? We have an entire 150 member team of a sales engineer. Grab one of them. 30-minute like Zoom, grab the thing, grab the manager, grab the director. I'm interested. What skills could I learn? Like, is there any past just learning? And so I think that's that's a missed skill. I think people feel sometimes shy to do that,
Yeah.
but I feel like the quote I always see is, it's not who you know, it's who knows you.
100%. Networking. I love that you talk about that reach out on LinkedIn, right? Because it's obviously something I am hugely passionate about. Similar to you, like getting those LinkedIn connections where you talk to people. Jeff, how many people have I sent to you who have come to me and like, I'm interested in sales, I'm interested in sales engineering, I'm interested in carbon black. Can you talk to me about that? Like that's a natural thing that I think is absolutely valuable in, to your point, learning how to do that communication.
Well, and honestly, I think pretty much across the board, irrespective of the level of leader you are, whether you're a individual contributor or manager or director or all the way up, you want to help people. And so I loved what that person did with you is they listened to what you said. They took heart. They had a valid question, and they just wanted a few minutes of your time to run it by you and make sure that they were doing the right thing and pick your brain just a little bit. They gave a little bit of time. And the only thing I might tweak on the LinkedIn is look for areas that have some commonality, or LinkedIn tells you a lot about what the person's passionate about.
Yes.
Right. Like if they wrote an article or they posted something, there's a really good chance that that's a major hot button for them. Like Neil, luckily he has posted hundreds of things, which means he actually has hundreds of hot buttons and soapboxes. But
somebody
so
literally,
it's actually a little harder to do with you, Neil. But most people have like one or two soapboxes that they get on. But find those, right? Those are some things that are super easy to get the person to say, "Oh yeah, I'd totally talk to you about that."
100%. Produce content. Like I think that's the long and the short of what you're talking about, is find some piece of content that you can produce. That way you can get out there and get critiqued by people. I mean, we stream every week, right? And it's like, if somebody like thought like, Neil, you're incredibly unprofessional, I would love that feedback. Don't anybody call me and tell me I'm being unprofessional.
I would have been the first to tell you, but I haven't said that.
You would not be the first to say that. Com Bombadil had a question for you, Jeremy. So we got capture. What was the rest of the CAT acronym?
Okay, so the acronym is CAD, C-A-D. I might have not come across. So CAD, so it's capture. The A is analyze. The D is deliver. And what's interesting about that is I feel like that works for a lot of SaaS products. The same. Like, how do we ingest something? What do we do with that data? And then how do we spit that and deliver it back out? So I call it CAD. No one actually taught me that. I just did it myself. Capture, analyze, deliver. But it's all about ingestion. What are you doing with that data? And then how do you deliver that data in a meaningful way?
So Josh is channeling my inner cynic and says, are we too good at our jobs for us to be taken seriously by non-cyber folks? Anybody want to step in that one?
We're not that good at our jobs.
I mean, I think, Jeff said something in the last little monologue there, which is great. It's like, no matter what role you're in, we can continuously, all of us continuously to improve, mature, learn new spaces. So it's a funny question. But
I think the answer is no. I think you're trying to look at the glass half full, Josh. No, we're not that good. I'll go out on a statement and say we fail constantly. We fail constantly. I would even go so far as to say cybersecurity is still, as a career field, incredibly immature. I don't care that it's been around for 20 plus years. As a career field, as a profession, as an operation, it is incredibly immature. You spent some time at sales, doing some sales engineering roles, right, Jeremy?
I did, yes.
All right.
Yep.
All right. I'm gonna send this one to you then from Fasochi, our resident question dictionary. Hopefully he's still around. It says Jeff, but Jeremy, how does one succeed in cyber sales?
So maybe we both answer this. I'll answer from the sales engineering perspective, and
Okay.
Jeff, because you're in the actual sales part, you answer that. But from an engineering standpoint, the way it's really reiterating a lot of things I've kind of said in this entire live stream. But how do you succeed? You're typically working with other individuals that don't necessarily know everything that you do, or what you're speaking, the language you're doing, and how are you doing it. And so I think sometimes breaking things down at a 30,000 foot view for individuals, even prospects and customers helps. I can't tell you how many times I get on, even now working in Gong, and I get on with some of the largest customers and CISOs of the world. And I sometimes have to even tell myself, just because I'm really passionate and knowledgeable about that, I need to slow down. I need to break this down, because that individual's running around from meeting to meeting too. It's like, wait, I don't even know what you guys do. So like, I think it's important to, relationships is huge as well. Like when you're working in sales, everything I truly believe is win as a team, lose as a team. So how do you engage other people within your organization? Kind of like we were talking about before. So if I know I'm talking to a customer and they say, oh, that's really good, but I don't like that button, or it doesn't do this. How do you engage with product engineering, product management? How do you loop back to the customer? How do you maybe bring them on a call and explain the roadmap, for example? So I think it's really collaborating with everybody you have around you and trying to win as a team as best as possible.
Jeff?
Yeah, I don't think I would change a whole lot of that from the direct sales side of it either. Like I boil this down to a simple question: what can I do to help? And it sounds trite, but at the end of the day, if I can figure out what the issue is and how I can uniquely help you, that's I feel good about my job. You feel good about the fact that you're being helped, and that's a closed sale. So and overly simplistic answer, more than happy to talk live about this in greater detail. But it's caring and having a insatiable appetite for how can I help you, either professionally or personally. I don't really care. I just want to help, and that'll end up coming. Even if I help personally, it'll come back to be a good thing no matter what.
And I want to reiterate, like you asked a good question there for Sochi. Like, how do you succeed in cyber sales? I've been on the receiving side of a lot of salespeople throughout my entire career. The reason Jeff and I have a great relationship is because of the advice that he's giving you. Right? I have met my share of salespeople who just want that paycheck. They just want to close that deal. They just want to get you that. They just want that PO. Where's my PO? Right? Where's my PO? God, if I had to listen to a single SecureWorks salesperson say that to me another time, I'd choke slam somebody. But that's again back to what they're talking about. Is like, what problem can you solve? How are you going to help me? Where are we going to partner together? I know you want to get paid. How are you going to partner with me? Right, type of thing. Make sure you get paid. This one's from Bob. This is back over to our conversation about CISOs and a little bit of that tirade. More of a statement, but I'll let Jeremy, you can start off with this one too. The CEO is also there to provide the CISO the resources to protect the business. True or false?
Especially from, when I say resources, from a funding standpoint, if the CISO is articulating correctly up to the CEO, that's a big portion of that. And they understand the risk of security and privacy and all that combines, 100% agree with that statement. I think too many times we see, the CISO is like, I don't have the budget. And then I'm not going to pick on any CISO, but like, what are your conversations like? How often are you communicating? What are you communicating? Are you communicating the risk? At the end of the day, I still think security is it's a business challenge at the end of the day. Right? It's a business challenge, and understanding and thinking about that way can help you not only move up your career, but get those C-level examples, positions, but also be able to communicate to CEOs and board members as well.
So it sounds like you're saying the best CISOs are great salespeople.
You're gonna make this return to stream. You're just gonna drive that one in there.
I know. Well, no, but like as soon as you're talking, I'm translating that to sales speak of, I did not do a good enough job understanding what your needs are as the business owner and ensuring that I am aligning what I need to what problem I'm going to solve for you. That's exactly what you were saying, and sounds awfully similar to a sales role.
It is, and I'll stipulate that description is accurate to a sales role. I want to put a finer point on what Jeremy said, and to this question specifically. A CISO can't just go to the CEO and say, I need money. Like, it does not work like that. It does not work like that in any company. It doesn't work like that whether you're the CISO, the CTO, the CIO. It doesn't matter. Jeff can't go to his boss and say, I need money. I need money for Gong, right? There's got to be a business reason for it. And I think we lose sight in questions like this about resources, where is it the CEO's responsibility to provide the CISO with resources to protect the business? Yes, so long as the CISO has done their due diligence to articulate the business need. Just like Jeff has to articulate the business need, why he needs resources to continue to do the sales motion, just like how Jeremy has to articulate why he needs resources to continue to do the field CISO, responsibilities. It's not just a de facto standard to say, I need money so that I can protect an organization. It doesn't work like that in any organization.
Two sides of the same coin.
Yeah. Absolutely. I just refuse to acknowledge the sales side. My side's cooler. We've got cookies over here.
I clearly understand.
All right, let's see what else we got here for questions. Let's see here. We got a couple more. So this is back to our board conversation. Would that really be any different from a financial guru jumping on a company's board and pissing off you made me cuss on stream. Damn it. and upsetting the CFO.
Come on, Bill, you have said way worse on stream.
I know, and I have paid dearly for those mistakes.
You have learned. You have gotten so much better.
I have paid dearly for those mistakes. I would say it. Is it different? Tech people are much more sensitive than financial people are. Let's face it. All of you out there have bruised egos. I'm sorry to break that to you. Moment of silence for the bruised egos. But it is true, right? A CFO comes in knowing that there's business people on there. And so if their numbers are jacked up, they're fully expecting that the business people who are sitting on that board are going to be like, hey, your numbers don't add up. On that slide, you got 2 + 2, and it does not equal 6, right? They know the board's going to call them out on it. If anybody's had experience talking to leadership, they pay attention to numbers. They're really, really good at looking at numbers, and so they will call them out on that stuff. And so is it different? Yes, I think tech people are vastly different in that regard. Tech people are not receptive to confrontation at leadership levels. I don't know if either of you have a disagreement with that one, but I will say that the majority of tech folks do not respond well to confrontation at leadership.
Totally agree. I think it's when you look at traditionally at boards, it's typically financial business. It's a lot of times it's even, I remember some of the vendors I worked for, a lot of our board members were power users, right? Some of the biggest users were investors. So they understand typically the business and that stuff. And typically IT security is a little more, just it is what it is, right? A little more boxed in from like sometimes we're running down like the horse with the blinders on. And I think it is a little different.
Yeah, personally. I think it's vastly different.
It's different because the intent of the company to begin with is to make money. So the financial guy jumping onto the board is just helping the company do their primary focus anyway.
Cable Security, glad to see you back in chat. How are we supposed to get support if we can't talk to non-cyber folks? I mean, this is a huge part, right? Or am I just missing the boat? I think that's very much what we were talking about, right? Is understanding how you do those communication levels, for those different people, because you have to learn to talk to non-cyber folks. We have failed the non-cyber folks. When we started failing them? When all of you started working help desk and calling users stupid because they put their coffee mug in the CD tray. That's when we lost the non-cyber folks. I don't know if anybody else wants to jump on that soapbox with me or not.
I quick story. So at IBM, when I was an incident response consultant, I would go on site with some of these world large organizations and we'd go through playbooks, right? Creating what do you do in a phishing incident, a malware incident, whatever it might be. We would always tell them, okay, it was usually towards like the beginning, sometimes in the middle of this weekly, we call it IR workshops, and IR for incident response workshops. And so I remember asking, okay, so let's say I'm making this up, but let's say you are breach and you have to notify customers. Do you know who to notify? Do you know when to notify? Oh, our lawyers do. How do you contact your lawyers? Pick up the phone and call them. What's the number? Who are you calling? What's the thing? Why don't we bring the legal team tomorrow if we can? Oh, they're not going to like this. Bring them in. We brought them in, marketing, HR, the CFO into an incident response. The organizations that do this right know that they have to work together as a team. I said that earlier, but like even from an incident response side. And so we have to break those barriers where like, I don't even think it's acceptable that we can't, like, if somebody is like, oh, we can't talk to legal finance, break that barrier. Do everything in your power to break that barrier. Use your resources and the management to break that barrier, because if something hits the fan, right, they are going to be involved whether you like it or not, whether they like it or not. And so I think it's like, we've got to break that barrier. We got to do everything in our power to get that bias of like, oh, it's security, they sit in the corner in that dark room. No, like we're at the forefront of this as well. And we need you part of these conversations or these exercises or, the support, wherever it might be.
I think that's a fantastic point. This is why I'm a huge fan of tabletop exercises, because what you just described there is a fantastic example of what you'll discover when you do these incident response tabletop exercises. Cool, you've been breached. Who are you going to call? Oh, we'd call legal and marketing. Cool, show me the phone numbers. Show me what you're going to say to them. Let's get them on the phone and let's make sure that they know what they're doing. And all of a sudden, there's that awkward moment where it's like, you mean we actually have to like practice this?
Yep. Yep. I remember I had one in New Jersey. I think it's if you've lost, don't hold me to this. If you lose so many, a certain volume of individuals' data in a data breach, you have to contact. This is a couple states. You have to contact state police.
Yes.
I remember that specific customer was in New Jersey, and in our tool we showed contact New Jersey State Police. And before I clicked into the details and it shows them, that's what the product did. It did everything for them because they didn't know. They were like, we have to contact the police, and I'm like, do you know what the fines are that if you don't? But like and I got to be honest, these are like worldwide brand organizations.
Yeah.
This is 2016, 2017, but anyway, break that barrier. We have to break the barrier.
We absolutely do have to break that barrier. Jeff, I have a couple for you specifically. There are some people who are interested in your cyber secrets at Carbon Black. Do you have any cyber secrets or company news that you want to share? How's the Broadcom acquisition going?
Moving forward. So there you go. Honestly, there's not a whole lot of details other than what's in the news. Like, I don't know any more than any of you do who've read the Wall Street Journal. So like, honestly, it's moving forward. I think the direction could be pretty cool if like you read what it could be of security down to the chip level. All right, if we can get there, that significantly improves performance and speeds that whole process, opens up better insight into the environment. Really cool, right? And that's I can get behind that. That's pretty cool. Beyond that, there's not a whole lot I can share. I am a salesperson. I know nothing beyond. I literally can play dumb, and it's legit.
I want to pivot on you, and I want to bring you both in this because Jeremy, you brought this up too, as you moved into Big Blue, right? Going from a 100-person company to 300,000-person company at IBM, right? And Jeff, you went from 100-person company Carbon Black to hundreds of thousands of people at VMware, and now you're going to hundreds of thousands of people at Broadcom. What are some tips in that transition from those really small agile teams to some of these big monumental organizations where I'm sure you felt like you were lost, big corporate processes, things were not the same that you were used to? What is some good mental health conversations to have around that type of transition?
You want to take it first, Jeremy, and
I'll take it first. And these are just to your point, like mental health is a huge thing, especially in the work we do and acquired by a big company. I think there's a couple things. One, stay true to your work, stay true to your team, right? That doesn't, for the most part, luckily if you're in an acquisition, like most likely acquisitions are not letting people go, right? At least not right away. It's usually you're acquired, they're trying to figure out how to migrate you in from everything, not just the technology, from an HR perspective. So stay true to yourself, the work that you're doing, your team. I can't stress it enough, be patient. A lot of people aren't patient. They're like, oh, I want to maybe get acquired and collect a check, or I will need to now. It's a big company. I remember a friend that was like, oh, I'm part of IBM. I want to instantly move to London and do this. It's like, okay, hold on. Like, you probably will have those opportunities, but be patient. These things take a long time. And number 3, I know it sounds cliche, take a deep breath. That kind of goes with be patient. Like, enjoy the ride. I got acquired at IBM when I was 25 years old. First time I got acquired, or when I got acquired, I was just like, IBM. I'm like, that's like my grandfather's company. Like that was
that's like Jeff's company.
That was my first reaction. I'm like, what the hell am I going to do at IBM? And
I'm going to work on some mainframes.
Honestly, I was just like, what are they going to do to that company? Like, everyone goes through it, right? You kind of get freaked out. And when I say everybody, including the CEO, the board, everybody. And I remember like being like, okay. And I did those things. So I was like, I had still like good people around me, mentors, like they're figuring it out. Like, how do we integrate? Be patient. I mean, I would have never moved to California if it wasn't for IBM. Yeah. So IBM, and that was within the first year. They said, hey, you're doing a lot of West Coast travel. We're sick of paying your expenses to fly back and forth to California. Do you want to just move there? Sure, let's do it. So, I mean, there's all these opportunities that can come with part of these acquisitions, especially from a career growth. I can't stress that enough. So be patient, learn it. Don't just necessarily leave right away, and like try to figure out like, can I make this a new life? What opportunities do I have to grow?
Jeff?
Agree 100%, especially on the mental health. You know, having a little bit of a deep breath really helps. Finding a group of people that are kind of in your same boat that you can be completely open and honest with, vent with if needed, but have the patience to stick through it no matter what. Like, go ahead, vent, and then be done and do your job. The only other thing I'd say is find unique ways of helping. Like, honestly, I tell everyone that I've ever mentored, figure out a way to serve. And you know, in church, that's doing ministry of some kind, right? In business, it means, you know, figuring out how to do something that isn't your job, that helps someone else. Look for ways. You know, Joel talked about you know, garbage jobs. Like, it doesn't have to be necessarily that, but look for ways of helping other people. I think that that will give you more mental health to begin with. It'll give you a purpose for being at the bigger company. And it'll also get you recognized by other people in the bigger company that say, yeah, well, Jeff's a pretty good guy and he helps out. And, you know, he jumped right in and gave us some really interesting insight from a security perspective that we didn't have. So
100%. I like it. Well, Jeremy, I really appreciate you coming on the show tonight. It's been a pleasure to have you. We're at the top of the hour, and unfortunately, I got to let you go. Any parting words for our audience before I send you along your way?
Well, first of all, Neil, Jeff, thanks again for having me on. This is one of those, you know, I think growing up in cybersecurity, definitely one of those opportunities. I was like, whoa, I get to be on Neil's podcast. So first of all, I appreciate it. I've always been a listener. So I can't thank you guys more than enough. Love what you guys do. Especially, I think, and Neil, you and I talked about this a couple of weeks ago, but like what you do for people and the education component of this, breaking into cyber, bringing in, you know, people that have come from different backgrounds and different companies and different roles. And so that's kind of my parting words is, you know, going into cyber, no matter if you're a security engineer now or a pen tester or red team, blue team, keep your eyes and ears open because the world's changing, technology's changing, and you can find yourself maybe being like Neil, being on a board in a couple of years and doing something completely different that you never thought. So keep your eyes open. And like I said, all those little tactics, like connect with people, relationships, listen. Jeff, helping other people's out. I mean, that's an awesome kind of, you know, advice right there. So with that, I want to thank you guys again and look forward to listening to more and being on again in the future.
Absolutely, Jeremy.
I'll see you guys at Black Hat.
Absolutely. Oh, awesome. That's right. Oh, you're good. Wait, you're gonna be at Black Hat too?
I will be at Black Hat. Yes.
So I'm gonna ignore the audience for a second. Is there something going on? Is Gong doing something at Black Hat?
We aren't. I'm just I'm going and gonna go see some speaking sessions, walk around, and.
Well, listen, since we're both going to be at Black Hat, I really want to make sure that you and I connect in person. I'd really like to pick your brain on a couple topics. Do you think that maybe we can connect offline and set some time aside to do that?
Absolutely. That'd be great.
That's all you have to do, folks. Just like that. That's all you have to do. Just like that. Jeremy, thank you very much. Have a good day, sir.
Super simple. Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Cheers.
Awesome, dude. Dude, that
was fun.
That dude was awesome. I love it. I love it. That's so cool.
I love the fact that you met him a month ago and already hog-timed him in.
Oh yeah,
into it.
Oh yeah, look. I could tell people who are passionate about this space and people who want to give back and want to give their opinions. When I met Jeremy, I was like, we got to have this dude on. He's got to be on the show. So I'm super glad he agreed to that one. Jeff, are you going to be a Black Hat? I think we said that you're going to be a Black Hat. Is Carbon Black doing anything special for Black Hat?
Yeah, we've got a happy hour that we can get an invite out. Love to have it. Actually, I'll do Jeremy for sure.
Absolutely. Is there? I want to make sure I get in on that invite. Yeah,
we can extend it.
Awesome, fantastic. Let's work on that together. Let's see if we can't get that invite extended. I'd really like to connect with you at Black Hat. Make sure we get some time together.
100%.
That's all you got to do, folks. That's all you got to do. It's that easy. It's that easy.
And you're not putting anyone out.
You're absolutely.
That's the cool part about it.
People want to do that. Like, it's seriously, find people you admire, find people you want to connect with, reach out to them and be like, I want to connect with you at Black Hat. Like, just do it. Just do it. It's that easy. Jeff, thoughts on tonight? It's good to be back.
It's good to be back. I've missed you.
I missed you too.
I am super proud of you. You, 2.5 years ago, we were talking about board.
Yeah.
And you're like, I want to be a CISO. I want to get on a board. Look at you.
Yeah.
I'm proud of you, man.
It's been a trip. It's been a trip.
Well, you knew what you wanted, you worked for it, and you got it. Congrats.
I got friends like you and this awesome community, and obviously my beautiful wife, helping keep me honest. So I appreciate you, and I appreciate everybody in the cyber and security community. I appreciate everybody. I couldn't do it without you guys. So
you're here. Thanks for the warm welcome. This is great. By the
always. Don't forget, next week we're gonna be doing Old Guy Wednesday on Twitch. So that kind of brings me. I didn't want to do this one with Jeremy on because it was kind of a longer conversation, right? Caitlin says, are streams moving to Twitch possibly in the future or staying on YouTube? I asked on Discord and was told you would answer tonight. For those not on the Discord, don't forget to join. Yes, hit that exclamation point Discord. Do make sure you join Discord. Do make sure you hit those exclamation point socials and follow me on my socials as well. Make sure you turn all notifications on so that you do get notified when things change. I talked about this a little bit at the beginning. We did a test run back at Twitch last night. We played a World of Haiku, which I would highly encourage you to go over to Twitch and watch because that game is going to be hot. It's hot right now. It's going to be hotter in the future as well. It went really well. It went really well. And so we're going to dip our toe back into it next week for Old Guy Wednesday. So if you remember from last year when we transitioned from Twitch to YouTube, we kind of took a month to do it to make sure it was the right decision to do. Yep. We are going to do probably something similar to that again. We're going to do a month and we're going to continue to see if the community really does appreciate being back on Twitch more than on YouTube. It feels like the community, last night's reception, again, our first night back streaming, we had 255 concurrent viewers for over 2 hours, playing World of Haiku, which was phenomenal for a first time back at Twitch. And we did a poll last night and everybody said that they felt the hype was more awesome on Twitch than they felt on YouTube. And so I want to do right by the community. And so it feels like the community values the hype level on Twitch very, very much. Caitlin, to your point, I think the answer is going to be yes. I can say that the mod team is pretty much leaning in that direction. We have not officially made a team decision yet, and if you know much about me, I very much believe in making a decision as a team. And so I'd say that the mod team is very much leaning towards that. I think the answer is going to be yes, but we haven't solidified that yet. So next week will be Old Guy Wednesday on Twitch. This Friday, however, we're going to be doing Tea with a Hacker here on YouTube. Hopefully my restream works, and I'll be doing it on YouTube and LinkedIn. I'll have to argue with the restream tech support on that one. Next week we've got obviously Old Guy Wednesday and Tea with a Hacker as well next week, and then it'll be time for Black Hat, right? And so you can catch me at Black Hat. You can catch Jeff at Black Hat. You can catch Jeremy at Black Hat. You can catch all of the awesome people that you always wanted to get in touch with over at Black Hat. I highly encourage you to do so. Make sure you reach out to us and get some time to do so. I'm going to be streaming U.S. Cyber Games. Josh, if you're still here, can you drop the link to the U.S. Cyber Games event that we're working on? Base case is in chat. I see base case in chat. Jeff, I'm super excited about this opportunity too. You remember the U.S. Cyber Games event that we did a couple months ago with Cat's Eye and Play Cyber, the massive event. They are. See, I just got choked up because of how awesome it was. Give me a second.
Talk about yourselves.
Oh my God, that was amazing! Like the hype went into my throat. The hype went up. If you've seen Twitter, if you have not seen Twitter, all the more reason you need to go make sure you're on my Twitter page and you got the notifications turned on. U.S. Cyber Games is doing a King of the Hill Capture the Flag for charity during Black Hat. It's during the Thursday of Black Hat. We're looking for sponsors. The event is looking for sponsors if anybody wants to sponsor the event, but that's not my primary concern. My primary concern is that I am putting up a team. There's an entry fee for participants of the Capture the Flag, and so I'm putting up a team. I'm putting up a cyber insecurity team. If you're interested in being on the cyber insecurity team, make sure you reach out to Base Case in chat. Okay, Base Case is leading the team for cyber insecurity, so make sure if you're going to be at Black Hat, you want to be part of that you talk to Base Case and get on that team. Racy Cyber and the guys, Ed, who I did the co-streaming with during the last US Cyber event. I'm doing the US Cyber event with him again today, and during Black Hat, and he was like, "Oh, Neil, I'm calling you out, and I'm going to beat your cyber insecurity team." Some people's kids,
do not poke the bear.
Do not poke the bear. So I need top representation from the cyber insecurity community. We gotta put these. Dream
Team. This is Dream Team 2.0.
I need people out there representing the narwhals. We got to have some narwhal representation of this thing. I can't participate because I'm streamcasting. I gotta commentate on it. So I need you guys to get in touch with Base Case, get the word out there. Let's get a top-notch team up there, and let's show some cyber insecurity love at Black Hat. All right.
Team Narwhal. I love it.
Team Narwhal, baby. Team Narwhal. I think that was the last of the announcements that I had. Jeff, closing remarks from you, sir.
Oh, this is great. I've missed you, and I know it's been a minute, but it's good seeing your face.
It's good seeing your face too, buddy. It's good seeing your face too.
We've been relegated to texting.
I've tried to hold off on sending you nudes.
Yeah, please don't.
I don't want to have
to explain that again.
Chat says that they missed you too, Jeff. Chat says that they missed you too.
Oh, cheers.
Cheers. All right, Jeff. Have a good one, sir.
All right. Good night.
Woo! What an awesome evening. I really appreciate this. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in tonight. Told you everything that was going on. I don't have to tell you anything else. Remember, whether you're on the red side or the blue side, or still deciding, keep learning. We'll see you next time.